For generations, men have been the primary breadwinners in heterosexual households, a dynamic that has shaped everything from gender roles to the balance of power at home. Today, that landscape is beginning to shift. Over the last 25 years, the percentage of women who earn more than their male partner has grown from 25.9% to more than 30% you see there on the screen. It's not a complete role reversal, but it does point to a slow shift and a redefinition of what leadership can look like in modern relationships. Peak performance coach Hina joins me this morning with strategies for navigating this change. Good morning.
Good morning, Kelsey.
I could see you nodding along.
Yes, because I think that stat is just going to grow and grow and grow. We're entering into a new era for sure.
We are. So I think that means we have to have conversations about this. So the stat we just mentioned, roughly about 32.8% of women in Canada are the primary earner in their home. Why do you think that this number has gone up?
Well, women have entered the workforce and then they're getting promoted. They're going into C-suite roles. They're going into executive roles. So there's that piece of it. Many women are also choosing entrepreneurship. They've got some passions and they turn it into a business, and there's that. And then there's also some women, Kelsey, that want to actually create wealth for themselves and their family. It's what they desire, and they've got some opportunities now that maybe they hadn't had before, and they're taking advantage of those opportunities.
I think with that change in the workforce, though, we're not necessarily seeing as fast of a change in the home. And you see this reflected I think, a lot on social media. Women saying, hey, I now work 40 hours a week. I make all this money, but I'm still doing so many tasks at home that it feels like the majority of work is still falling to women. So what does this change mean for families?
It means we got to have some conversations.
We got to talk.
We got to talk, Kelsey, because you're absolutely right. If you're now the primary earner in the relationship and you're still taking on all of the household responsibilities, or a majority of them, and you are the primary parent, if that is what your family is like, you've got children, then that's a heavy lift. And that's going to lead to burnout. That's going to lead to stress and overwhelm. And honestly, it will unravel the relationship. So you've got to have communication over the division of labor and know that value and contributing comes in many forms, as we have known for years. And it's not only in the paycheck, but there's got to be a conversation about this. It is not sustainable if you're doing it all.
It is not sustainable by any means. And you can say this from your own personal experience because you experienced this shift within your own household.
Yeah, so this shift happens differently for different people. For some, it's slow. Like, I've been married for 30 years now. And so in the beginning of our relationship, for most of it, Paul was the primary earner, and now I am. It was actually a goal of mine to retire him. And I'll just say he was very up for that goal. He was like, that is a goal I can get my energy behind.
Who wouldn't be? I would love that goal for me too. Jay, take note. Jay, take note.
And then for some people, it comes on suddenly, like something happens, like during the pandemic, where, you know, someone has lost their job and the other person has to step up. But what you start to realize is that we are modeling this for the first time for many of us. Like, we're on the front lines of this generational paradigm. Like, your daughter will see a whole new model of family life and what that's like, that she's going to take into her family, and for my sons as well. So we've had conversation about what that looks like, but it's important to realize that you still want to have that dynamic of the masculine and the feminine energy. Because for me, I've got hundreds of clients, I'm making decisions all day, and that's being in the masculine energy, nothing to do with genders. And so I also want to be able to just come home and just relax. And so Paul is very much the protector and the provider. It just looks different. It's not all about the paycheck for him to be that for me and for the kids.
I was also reading a really interesting study from about 5 years ago from the University of Waterloo that talked about when you're seeing that shift of roles within the home, you can also do it with something as simple as women have traditionally taken care of what's inside of the house, men have taken care of what's outside of the house in terms of household tasks. What if you switch that up? What if mom is the grass cutter? Then my daughter grows up seeing a whole world where she doesn't just have to do laundry and cooking. If I give that task to the boys, that gives them a big shift that's just subtle within their brain, but it changes their whole kind of trajectory of what they'll think is their responsibility as they get older.
You know, what you're saying is so important because it's more than words. you're seeing it being embodied and acted out in the home. And there's another thing that you can do, which really helps with this new modeling, called third-party acknowledgements. So it's when you would acknowledge the person you're acknowledging in front of others. So what it would look like is that if I'm acknowledging Paul in front of my boys, so I'm saying to them, you know, I just love that your dad drove me to the event and helped me set up. That really made such a big difference. So you're starting to also acknowledge value and contribution in a different way. So as you're doing those kind of role reversals, you're also acknowledging it. Like, isn't it so great that she cut the grass or he did the laundry, those sorts of things as well.
I love that. I love that you give acknowledgement to not just the paid tasks in the house, but also the
yes
as well.
Yes.
Hina, great to have you on the show.
Thank you
so much for
Thanks,
coming on.
Kelsey.
We'll be right back.